Rafael Dos Anjos defeats Paul Felder via split decision. We'll talk about the split later on. We are going to have a conversation about it. But I had it basically as a shutout. I think you could give one round to Paul Felder if you wanted to, but it was Rafael Dos Anjos' return to lightweight, BC. Okay, we know he's been a former champion in this weight class, BC. He's a perennial contender basically no matter where he goes. But what did you learn on Saturday? What did he prove to you?
He proved the spirit of those things we said leading into this fight. Let me phrase that correctly, what I'm trying to say here. Luke, he's not typically on the short list of the names that jump out of your mouth of guys who you were like, surefire Hall of Famer, active legend, all those type of things. He's in that gray area. Yet, something we said on last week's show in response to the interview I did with him, it's like, you know what? The more you look at that resume, you more look at the fact that he only fights the best. He'll lose some, but his wins are impressive. His losses are almost more impressive just on how many great fighters he fights in a short period. So you have that as sort of, you're like, you know what? Maybe this guy doesn't get the credit for being the completely well-rounded, always professional, model sort of badass blood and guts fighter who can get to that elite level and you can't count him out. And then he comes in here at 36, moves down to a weight class he hasn't been in 4 years. One that said, Luke, he nearly died the last time he tried to make it when he lost his title to Eddie Alvarez. And he comes in looking like $1 million. He may have lost 4 of 5 coming in from welterweight, but what he did on this one night against a hungry, game as balls Paul Felder, who had nothing to lose, was really kind of stamp something home. Yes, at 36, he's an active contender in this historically deep lightweight title division all over again. But even bigger, he's an absolute badass, active living legend. And this was all about that. A complete performance, figured out early on what was going to give him the advantage, used the pressure of the wrestling, was fairly even striking on the feet for most of this fight with Felder, really started to win out as the rounds went on, slightly in terms of using his volume, body shots, attacking. But it was just a grind, hardcore, get him to the ground, survive a cut, create a cut of your own type of ballsy, badass performance. He lost 4 or 5 coming into this, Luke. If he lost this, we would have been talking about it's time. It's time to make your plans. What's going to be your go-away bout? What other legend do you want to fight before you end this? No, he's a legitimate title contender at lightweight, at 36, at the weight class that was going to kill him. And he did it by basically doing an 8-month training camp, going to Brazil, catching COVID, running up the hills next to the favelas. He did it Rocky IV, Moscow, old school style. He's a hero. I love this man. Is he ever going to get back to the title level and win one? I don't know. But a performance like this, you cannot count him out.
Yeah, I mean, I echo really everything you're saying. There's 2 different divides in the conversation to have here. One is, what is the immediate implication of a win over Paul Felder from Saturday? And for that sort of narrow consideration, what I would say is he is going to be a tough out for anyone in that top 10, especially even that top 5, I would say. He is obviously a former champion. He looked to be in phenomenal physical condition at 155 pounds. He had the stamina to go 25 minutes. Now, exactly where it places him remains to be seen. Climbing the ranks at lightweight, even if it's just one rung on the ladder, is exceedingly difficult to do. But to me, I would say he is a player in that top 7, top 6 space. To me, he's a tough out for all of them. I wouldn't discount his title chances completely. And to be this good this late in the game after all of, yes, many victories, but many defeats too, in 2 different weight classes, coming back to a weight class that you had to leave because of the weight cutting issues, it is incredible that he finds himself here in this position. So I don't want to overstate the value of this one victory at lightweight, but I don't want to undersell it either. It tells us he's not washed. He's a tough out, probably going to be ranked somewhere in that top 7-ish space, and he is a viable player at 155 pounds. The broader conversation, the second part of it, to me, it just blows me away. I can't say enough good things about Rafael Dos Anjos, BC. 10 times this guy has been in a UFC main event, sometimes on pay-per-view, mostly on fight nights, but 10 times he's done it. 8 times he has fought somebody who was previously a belt holder. in this organization, and he's done it at 155 and 170 pounds at the time in which he was competing, certainly the two most difficult weight classes out there. I said this on Twitter on Saturday night. It is not a knock to boxing, because I'm sure if the incentives were different, you would get guys like that in the sport. It's just not available to them. But in MMA, if you want to be a guy who just takes on risks because you believe in the martial arts spirit, if you want to be a guy who says, I don't really take fights that are always advantageous. I'm not going to take fights where it's even on size. I'm not going to take fights where really I have anything to gain. You might get guys like that in boxing, but you have that here in RDA. There is no equivalent like him to me on our sister side of the sport, or brother side, whatever, our sibling side of the sport in boxing. He is a guy that has incredible wins. He's a belt holder previously in the UFC, but there is time after time after time where he took fights that were not to his. No manager would have ever told him it's a good idea to do. He was undersized. He was against somebody who had no name, whatever, and he still did it. Look at the list of guys that he has faced. People talk about murderer's rows. No one has faced a murderer's row like him. He's got some losses for it along the way. He is such a unicorn. And the last thing I want to say about this is, BC, I'm going to put him now on the level of Michael Bisping and Alistair Overeem. And what I mean by that is these guys who most of the time they're winners. In fact, winners at high levels. Overeem, holding the Dream and Strikeforce and K1 title. Bisping, Hall of Famer, middleweight champion. And obviously Dos Anjos, a previous lightweight champion. But sometimes they lost. And sometimes they lost in devastating ways. And sometimes when fighters lose in devastating ways, they're never the same. But then you get guys like those three that I just mentioned that have an absolute amnesia about the difficulty they have faced. They have amnesia about the times that life pushed back on them. They have bulletproof minds that carry them forward no matter what. It is a marvel to witness, and Dos Anjos deserves to be placed along those two other men. He has my utmost respect.
Well, look,
I'm so glad he's back.
Yeah, well said. And it's one thing, by the way, to have that unflinching self-confidence. The greats have it, right? But it's one thing to have that when you can't back it up. There's been many a great who's lingered too long, took on ill-advised fights, sent to hell for it, and fell apart. And you're like, man, they're their worst victim. They are their own worst enemy, is what I'm trying to say. It's even rarer in that space you mentioned, the Bispings, the Overeems, where you can linger late, still believe in yourself, and still be able to evolve and execute and withstand and all those things. I mean, there's a mental toughness in there that goes far, 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 far beyond just that entry-level toughness that makes you a professional fighter who can last and do some things. You have to really be able to be smart enough to evolve, and that's what he's done. If there's any boxing equivalent, and it's not an easy one to make, it's probably Nonito Donaire, who's been to the top so many times and then looked done, went back down in weight late in his career, resuscitated himself. Now he's back in the title picture here at 118, coming off that hellacious fight of the year against Naoya Inoue. He might be the only guy you can compare to. It is unicorn level. And to circle back to your original point, yeah, RDA's in play. I don't think he'll get Conor McGregor. He wants to make this old hotel room key, Luke, this relic of MMA history, 196, RDA McGregor, the fight that never happened. He wants that shit.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't think he gets it, Luke, but he's going to get a big-ass fight, and he's going to deserve it now when we look at this title picture, because either Khabib's going to do one more and going to look for the perfect opponent, or we are going to be lining up who's next for Khabib. He's not at the front seat of that conversation, but he's in the car at least. Okay, Luke? He's in the damn car.
I totally agree. And then the last thing I'd say on this, I just want to, anyone can go on Wikipedia and look at this, but I'm not going to go through all of them. But since he faced Gleison Tebow, this is who he has fought. So Tebow, Kamal Shalarus, international class wrestler, Anthony Njokuani, great striker, Mark Bocek, one of the best grapplers out of Canada ever, Evan Dunham, Cerrone, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Jason High, Benson Henderson, Nate Diaz, Anthony Pettis, Cerrone again, Eddie Alvarez, Tony Ferguson, Tarek Safedine, Neil Magny, Robbie Lawler, Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, Kevin Lee, Leon Edwards, Michael Chiesa, and now Paul Felder. Man, you're not going to find many resumes of guys who are willing to take on challenges like that in combat sports. Celebrate them while they're here, BC, and I know you do.
Look, would you also throw, real quick, Frankie Edgar in that same group of Overeem, Bisping, and RDA? There's some Frankie Edgar vibes I get from this late 30s RDA.
Yeah, I guess you could put him there. I hadn't thought of it in that way. Yeah, I guess you could. I mean, he's had the bad setbacks, but I don't feel like his setbacks were as pronounced. Maybe I'm wrong about that, though. You know what? I have to. He's at a bare minimum. He's on the bubble. Probably deserves to be included. But you're right. Certainly, he's had a career of nothing but absolute savages over and over again across now multiple weight classes, 3 of them, and found ways to keep winning. So I don't want to take that from him either.
TV taught me how to dream. It was a life jacket. I don't think you can be an artist and not touch people.